I'm going to assume that you are familiar with Affinity Publisher 2. So I'm not going to be covering how you learn to use Publisher. So let's get started. Let's go and create a new A4 document. My printer at home here is A4, and I'm going to make sure that I've selected A4 and that it's in landscape mode. I'm going to also check the color format. And this is really important because when you're designing and you've created a really beautiful page, you want to be sure that what you see on screen is actually going to be what is actually printed out on your printer. If there's a discrepancy between what you see on the screen and what you're printing out at home, then it's probably because your color format is wrong. The color format needs to be CMYK. If yours says RGB, when we're starting out now, you need to click on the little drop down and make sure that it's CMYK. And CMYK is industry standard. Let's create. I like to put everything into boxes. It keeps things tidy. And I'm going to start off by creating a blank and empty rectangle. Right, so empty rectangle. And if I go to the swatches, I need to turn off both the full and the stroke color. I don't need the color or full on any of those. Let me just take that down a bit so you can see. And then I'm just going to go back into File because I need to find my paper and I need to place it on top of where I want to put it. Place. And I'm going to get this little thing that's sitting, you see it's almost the selection tool with a little down arrow, and that's where you place it. So I'm holding my mouse, I'm using a mouse pad, so I'm just holding my finger down and I'm selecting the size. I'm just eyeballing that for the moment. Go back up to your selector tool and move the paper around to a part where you really like it. So I'll just go there. I'll go Command X to cut because I need to cut it and it needs to go inside. Highlight my rectangle, go to Edit, go Paste Inside. Very simple, easy. The next thing I want to do, this is create a little internal A5 page, if that makes sense. If we go back to that, we want to create something like this. And I'm just going to create another rectangle. Now this is just to help me see. This time I'm going to fill it. Make sure you are on the full section here in your swatches. And I'm going to see where my middle is, and I'll know where my middle is. There's my middle. You know, if I move that around, so I can already see my page is way too big there. See there. Just eyeball it. You may want your page to be higher up. You may want it to be less. It's just aesthetics. Right. So I've got that. The next thing that I want to do, is create an inner shadow. Go back to your layers panel and go down here to where it says FX at the bottom. We're going to click on FX and we're going to go to inner shadow. We click on inner shadow. There's a little tick box next to it. Click that as well. And we're going to just create a radius. If you can see. Let's make that really big. You see there, but it's black and I don't really like black. I think black is way too harsh. So I'll just go into my color, double click on the little color palette, and I've got what I call vintage photo, and I double click on that. And I've got it there. Let me just check if it's as dark as I want it to be. Let's wind up the radius. This again is a personal thing. You don't even have to do this. So you can make it any color you like, depending on the paper that you're using or not. Right, so I'm going to go Command C, Command V, and that's going to give me my second page. Now you're going to notice that there's a gap there, and that's fine. That's where I'm going to hinge the paper. That's going to be where the fold is, which is going to be quite nice once we're done. I've set that up now, and now I want to fill my page in. So I'm going to go back to File. I'm going to go and find the piece of paper that I want to put in there. I'm going to go Place. Now I've got this double page spread here that I found, and I'll tell you all about the papers that I'm using in a moment. And I'm going to spread this across the entire sheet like that. Right. I'm going to cut it, so it's Command X, and I'm going to click on the left rectangle that I created, Edit, Paste Inside, and there's one side of that document. Click on the right hand rectangle and do exactly the same thing. File, Edit, Paste Inside. There we have our document. Now, there's just one thing I wanted to mention is the shadow, the page shadow that, because pages have shadows underneath them, you don't want it to look flat. So go back to your FX, so that's your effects, and this time we're going to go outer shadow, and we're going to just put a little bit of a shadow there. I don't think you can actually see it yet. You don't want it to be too big. Right. And then I'm just going to copy that same effect onto the other page as we did before. So there's both pages. There are both pages. The next thing I want to do is bring in a hinge. So I'm going to go back to Place. And I'm going to find the hinge that I want to use. Let's go with, well, sure, I had another hinge, but never mind. Well, there it is. Yep. So there's the hinge there. Now, to make sure that you are absolutely straight, go to your transform layer or menu and make sure here where it says R, it's set. If it says minus, don't take that out. Just leave that there. Just highlight the numbers and go 90. And 90 is straight. So there we are, we've got that. The next thing we need to do is go back to layers, and we're going to put a drop shadow on there as well. So FX, for the effects layer, we're on drop shadow, click on drop shadow. And again, this is down to personal choice, how much shadow you want. My suggestion is don't overdo the shadow. But also, have a shadow there, because otherwise it just, it doesn't anchor to your page. So you kind of want to get the balance between that. Just zoom in there so you can see. There is a shadow there. And I'm going to put my hinge. Now, if you're wondering where I got this, I've had this particular hinge for many, many, many years. I don't even know who the person was where I bought it from. But online, on a very well-known site, you are bound to find something like that. So a hinge of some kind online. but I want to make it a bit smaller. I don't want it to overshadow, because obviously this is going to be in the middle of my page, but I still want to see part of it. And I'm going to hold down to copy. I'm just going to hold my Option key down. As I'm holding my Option key down, I'm going to drag the image. And I'm going to drag it, keep holding the Option key down and dragging it as many times as I want. Now, I don't want to have my whole page filled up with hinges, but I do want them to be, I want them to be centered and I want them to be evenly spaced. So I'm going to just select all of my hinges, go here at the top to align and align to the center. There is also another option at the top here, which is also align. If you click on that, it'll do the same thing. You can go and select align center, but you can also align vertically. Now, I want to make sure that my spaces are evenly spaced vertically. So I'm going to just click on that, and that's going to line it up vertically. As long as you know where you're beginning, where your first hinge is going to be and where you want the placement of the last, however many hinges you have in between, the align vertically will align them in relation to your first and your last hinge, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to group those. And there we have it. We have a very basic page that we can use to print our junk journals on. Let's just go ahead and export it as a JPEG. So go File, Export. We want it set to best quality, which it is. We need to make sure that it is a JPEG, and we're just going to go Export. And I'm going to just rename this. I'm just going to call this practice page. Right. So we've got our practice page there. But I'm also going to have a page where there aren't any hinges. So I'm going to just hide the hinge page. So I've just got that. And I'm going to also file and export it. So the settings remain exactly the same. And I'm going to go export. Practice page plain. And save.